3rd, 2017 meeting of the Ways and Means Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ansello.
Here.
Mr. Broth.
Here.
Dr. Carbone.
Here.
Mr. Delahanty.
Here.
Chairwoman Draw.
Here.
Mr. Felder.
Here.
Mr. Hebert.
Here.
Ms. Cayley. Here. Mr. Marionetti is excused. Mr. Morelli is excused. Mr. Rocco.
Here.
President Daniele.
And I'd like to welcome tonight Legislator Cayley to her first Ways and Means. Thank you. Thank you. We look forward to it. And will Legislator Cayley please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you'll please just remain standing. And I'd like a moment of silence, please, for the victims and their families of Manchester, England. Thank you. Are there any speakers signed up for this evening?
There is not.
Okay. Is there anyone here, seeing none, that would like to address the committee? So we now have Rochelle Bell, welcome, our Senior Environmental Planner of the Planning and Development Department, and she will now give us a brief overview of the 2018 to 2023 Capital Improvement Program as it pertains to the Ways and Means Committee. Thank you, Rochelle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You should all have received a copy of the County Executive's 2018-2023 CIP. It has been reviewed and approved by the Monroe County Planning Board, and they conducted a public information meeting as part of their review. I'd like to remind the Legislature that there are no funding approvals associated with taking action on this referral. In June, you'll set a public hearing for July, and then hopefully you'll vote to approve the plan. I'm going to discuss the 6-year program in terms of total funding, budget year funding, and CIP program highlights from selected departments. The proposed CIP presents a 6-year program that totals $381 million. The proposed total program funding is $24.3 million less than last year's program, primarily due to dropping the Monroe County Water Authority's $36 million program from the CIP. The Water Authority does not need to be in the county CIP unless they are planning to bond for their program, which they are not. Total county funding is almost $226 million, which is $15.2 million more than last year's program. The increase is primarily due to adding new projects resulting from the LDC dissolution and other cash capital projects. Cash capital projects are large projects that we pay for out of operating funds instead of with a bond. Total district funding, Pure Waters and Water Authority funding, is $46.7 million less than last year's program. This is due to that $36 million of Water Authority funding dropping out of the CIP, as well as completion of 3 large Pure Waters projects. Total enterprise funding is $3.1 million more than last year's program. This is due to a slight increase in funding needs at the Monroe Community Hospital and at the airport, as well as the reinstatement of a solid waste 6-year program. State funding is $760,000 more than last year's program, a 3.5% increase. MCC, the airport, facilities, and highway and bridges receive state funds. Federal funding for the airport and highways and bridges is $3.3 million less than last year's program, a 5.7% decrease. And there is $1.5 million in private funding in this CIP. The Water Authority is paying for a water main replacement during the Phillips Road reconstruction between Schlegel Road and Lake Road. If you turn to Table 2 on pages 4 through 6 of your CIP, you'll see a list of 60 capital budget projects in priority order as determined by the Monroe County Planning Board. The 2018 capital projects total $39.1 million in county funding. The 2017 capital budget contained 69 projects at $35.7 million in county funding. Thus, the proposed program represents an increase in the budget year spending of 10%. And finally, here are a few highlights from our departments. IS, Information Services, on page 9 of your CIP, has one new project, Office Equipment Refresh and Replacement. This is a former UTC project. And if you compare projects in the adopted CIP with ones in this proposed CIP, you'll want to know that two IS projects have new names. Network Infrastructure was called Countywide Communications Infrastructure before, and ERP Security was called Countywide ERP Updates. All three IS projects are cash capital projects. The airport has a large program beginning on page 23. The $40 million in state funding you've all heard about is covering project design and construction in 2016 and 2017. Its impact on the 2018 to 2023 CIP is minor. The grant is meant to accelerate projects, not replace funding. Two new projects are introduced to the airport 6-year program in 2023, the last year of the 6-year program, and that is exactly when we like to see new projects introduced. The Pure Waters program begins on page 41 of the CIP. There are 8 projects in this year's program, down from 11 projects last year. 3 large projects have been completed or are near completion and do not need further funding. One notable change is that funding for the Van Laer secondary clarifier was moved forward to 2018 and 2019. In response, funding for the Northwest Quadrant aeration system improvements was moved out to 2020 to keep costs more evenly distributed. One new project is introduced in the Pure Waters program in 2023, and that's security improvements at Van Laer. Facilities management, beginning on page 45, has one new project, security system improvements, as a result of the dissolution of the LDC. The other change from last year, and one that explains most of the increase in facilities 6-year program, is the cost of the county office building reconstruction. Finally, for DES, returning to the CIP this year is the Solid Waste Division. They have one project for solid waste facilities discussed on page 50. Next is DOT, Highway and Bridges, begins on page 58 of your CIP. It includes 5 new highway projects and 4 new bridge projects. 6 projects in the adopted CIP have been completed and need no further funding. The other DOT section is traffic engineering, which begins on page 76. There are 3 new traffic engineering projects this year. Note that the majority of funding for DOT's new projects comes from the state and federal government. The Public Safety Department's program begins on page 85. There are 3 new projects in public safety, 2 of which, Public Safety Communications Infrastructure and Public Safety Communications Equipment and Device Replacement, were added due to dissolution of LDC projects. There were no changes to projects brought forward from last year's CIP. And finally, the Sheriff's program begins on page 90. There are 3 new projects for the Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Vehicle Replacement Project is new to the CIP, but is a cash capital project, and as such will be paid for out of the operating budget. New to the CIP this year and introduced in 2023 are the Sheriff's Scuba Truck and the Sheriff's Incident Command Post Vehicle. I'll be happy to take questions when the committee gets to this item on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the minutes from the April 25th meeting of the Ways and Means. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified by any changes by the end of the day. The next item on the agenda is new business. Madam Clerk.
Referral 17-0158.
Moved by Legislator Hebert and seconded by Legislator Carbone. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Barath.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I only have one real question about this right now through the Chair of the Administration, and that is regarding the actual annual action plan. On page 14 of the annual action plan, under citizen participation outreach, there's a section regarding target of outreach to minorities, persons with disabilities, non-targeted broad community, and residents of public and assisted housing. And the mode of outreach identified is newspaper ad. That is noted there are no comments received. My question is, which newspapers carried this ad and for how long? Through the chair.
And in the Daily Record for 30 days.
So, through the chair of the administration, so for our targets of minorities, persons with disabilities, residents of public and assisted housing, we posted in the Messenger Post in the Daily Record.
Because it covers the suburban towns and villages, through the chair.
And how long was this ad carried for? Through the chair?
Public comment period through the chair, it's for 30 days.
So, through the chair, so it was in the paper for 30 days, correct? Papers?
It's, I believe it's for a week.
For a week?
Sorry, I don't, yes.
Okay, so through the chair of the administration, I'm assuming we're not satisfied that there were no comments received.
Correct.
And through the chair of the administration, I would suggest that since no comments were received and we're utilizing papers of record, well, one paper of record with a relatively limited circulation for a very specific target population, that we may wish to consider other additional venues for advertising. I consider this to be particularly problematic. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Legislator Cayley.
Madam Chair, I forgot I could ask questions. With regards to what Legislator Baroth was saying, through you to the administration, the Messenger Post, it was in the Messenger Post for 30 days, but what I'd like to know is how often the Messenger Post is published.
Through the chair, the Messenger Post publishes once a week.
Thank you. Then through the chair, I would just like to echo that I think the outreach is problematic, and I believe that we need to do something different, a little bit more inclusive or a little bit more wide-reaching. We've had the concern with city issues being published. I think that we find the same thing happen in suburban areas, that there needs to be a little bit more. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I would like to see that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0159.
Moved by Legislator Carbone and seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? This is your chance for ask questions. Legislator Baroth.
Thank you. I actually told myself I wasn't going to ask any CIP questions, but I did. I even told you that. But then I need to.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, regarding the solid waste fund on page 50, I realize that this is a fund new to the CIP currently, and that it's an enterprise cost. But my question is, it was mentioned, and I had not realized, that this is actually returning to the CIP. When was it last in the CIP, through the chair?
To our best recollection, it was the Gloria Drive project in 2014.
Thank you. And at that time, through the chair, how long had it actually been in the CIP up until 2014? An approximation is fine.
Yeah, through the chair, we'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, but you will get back, yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then through the chair of the administration, just broadly speaking, am I correct? I won't put it like that. Is it correct that in terms of health, the health department, the Monroe Community College and the community hospital and the Department of Parks and the Seneca Park Zoo projects, well, departments, that nothing was of note in terms of the CIP? Because they weren't mentioned in the presentation. I just want to check in on those through the chair.
Through the chair, I'm sorry, what was your question?
During the presentation of the CIP, we talked about a number of departments, except for Parks, MCC, and the hospital, as well as the medical examiner's office. And so my question is, I look at them and they exist, they're there. Are there no notable changes in those particular departments?
Through the chair, yes, that's why they weren't mentioned, is there were no notable changes.
I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator Kaley.
Madam Chair, I wanted to go back over, through you to the administration, Human Services, a question was asked, and then you mentioned it also with regards to the fleet replacement under the Sheriff's Department being funded through cash capital. Did I hear that correctly?
Through the chair, yes.
Thank you. And then could I ask the balance of our cash capital? Through you? You knew this was coming.
Madam Chair, is the question for the balance of a 2017 or a 2018 overall in the CIP presentation?
I take both. Through the chair.
Madam Chair, we do have an approximate amount of total cash capital in the 2018 CIP. Give me just one moment.
Yeah, but it's, yeah, but then it's back in. See?
28, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, the 2018 to 2023 CIP as a 6-year program has just over $25 million in cash capital budgeted. There were cash capital contributions in 2017 that the legislature authorized in a series of resolutions earlier this year. We can add those up and get the legislator the amount of those appropriations.
Is he adding them now? Is he adding them now?
Pardon?
I'm not, thank you. I wasn't sure if I understood Mr. Franklin. Is he adding the 2017 now or getting back to us?
Madam Chair, before the full legislature meets, we will report the total amount of cash capital programs in 2017.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I guess it's an observation because I don't have the figures through the administration, through the chair to the administration. There were a number of things that are coming from cash capital going forward that have been moved from CIP. Obviously, this one went back in, so my concern going forward is that we have enough to fund what we're saying we're working with out of cash capital. Good process, but since it's new to us, that's why I'm asking these particular figures. So I'll be happy when I get those. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And
Do you have another question?
I do.
Okay.
It's more of a concern than a question. It has to do through you to the administration. I know that in Human Services it was touched on about St. Paul Street facility, that we do not own it, we lease it, and I realize that, but could you explain to me why we are not doing anything in terms of renovations to that building? Through you, Madam Chairman. Huh? Yeah, I know I did that wrong, didn't I?
I don't know that we have to answer it.
Through the chair, respectfully, I would disagree with the characterization that we're not doing anything at the building. Certainly, we have not included program capital dollars in this 2018-2023 program before you, but through the county's Department of Environmental Services, we do provide ongoing operation and maintenance in the building. That includes mechanical maintenance, HVAC, and other maintenance. We're also working through the county's Department of Real Property with the landlords to make sure that they're investing into the building as per their obligations. Conversations have included replacement of a roof, some lower level roof replacements, and ongoing discussions about some other physical upgrades to the building. So while you don't see capital monies in this program, that should not be misinterpreted as us not taking a look at the building and investing where need be.
Thank you. Then I would, through the administration, through Madam Chair, through you to the administration, since it was brought up and we are talking about it, I would like to get an outline of what's being done, because I believe that it should go through capital improvement. I am getting mixed messages here, being told that we don't need to make the improvements, that it goes to the landlord or the management company, and then in another question, I have been told that it's not their responsibility, it's ours, and vice versa. I have gotten numerous different answers on this lease. It is a long-term lease, and I would ask respectively that I get some type of determination or list of what's being done. I have been in the building and I have seen pictures, and it is not conducive to our clients, nor is it conducive to our employees that work there on a daily basis. Good to hear that the roof is being worked on, but if respectfully ask for an outline of projects for 2017 and 18 then, since it's not going to be included. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Oh, Legislator Felder?
My question is, what is the amount that we pay per year for that building?
You know, I'm not sure it relates to this,
What does?
the capital improvement plan. If you would like to submit,
Well, this question is going to follow that one, so.
what's the question that's going to follow it?
Depends on the answer to the question being asked.
Since the answer to the question.
Through the chair, I don't have that information with me now, but we can provide that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0160.
Moved by Legislator Delahanty and seconded by Legislator Rocco. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0161.
Moved by Legislator Rocco and seconded by President Daniele. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0162.
Moved by President Daniele and seconded by Legislator Ansello. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Baroff.
Chair. My first question is regarding this. I want to ask a question about the funding of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Rochester, Inc. And that is, it's an $18,000 sub-grant. From what budget line is that $18,000 sub-grant coming? Through the chair.
Through the chair, in the grant, it's out of the other line in the grant.
Well, I guess my question is, on the second page of the referral, it discusses where the funds are going, the general fund lines for the district attorney's office, the office of the sheriff, the public safety, office of probation, and it might be another one, but those are the three I spotted. And I was wondering if the sub-grant is coming out of one of those three bodies, through the chair.
Through the chair, it's coming out of the district attorney's
Some of the DA's
portion of the grant.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, is it fair to characterize the Boys and Girls Club of Rochester, Inc., the Project Step Up program as basically being a preventative program? Would that be a fair characterization through the chair?
Through the chair, yes, it would.
Thank you. And finally, through the chair of the administration, are there any other preventative programs being funded either directly or indirectly by this particular referral?
Through the chair, yes, there are. One of the programs is Project Tips. It's not really funding the whole program, but it's funding things that will be given away by the Give Partnership. And what we're intending to give away are coloring books and crayons that encourage positive relationships with the police and encourage gun safety for children.
Through the chair, to the administration, encourage gun safety through things like coloring books?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay. And then, is that the only other preventative project that we have through this funding, or no, through the chair?
Through the chair, Jennifer Curley from the Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office, along with RPD, had created these brochures for funeral homes for families who have lost individuals, and in the brochures, it just goes over how they need to report if they have any guns that are not registered.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, through the chair of the administration, just a rough estimate of the various preventative programs we have in place through this grant. Approximately, what is the dollar fee that might be attached to that, roughly speaking, through the chair?
For the Sheriff's Office, it's about $2,000.
Okay. Oh, no, I'm sorry, through the chair, just as clarifying, TIPS is through the Sheriff's Office, correct? Or no?
Through the chair, no, it is not.
Okay. So, through the chair of the administration, where does TIPS get its funding from?
Through the chair, I know that the Camp Good Days, there's a lot of groups community groups that fund project tips.
I'm sorry, what I meant was, from which department of these three departments is providing the partial funding for the TIPS program that was mentioned earlier in your earlier response, through the chair?
Oh, through the chair, that's through the Rochester Police Department, who is one of the Give partners.
So no funds actually via this grant? Because the Rochester Police Department doesn't get funds from this grant, from us,
Through the chair, no county grant funds will be spent for project tips.
Oh, okay, I'll take that off then. So we're back to, through the chair, approximately $2,000 for various brochures and other items that are given at either at funeral homes or elsewhere, correct?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0163.
Moved by legislator Ansello and seconded by legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0165.
Moved by legislator Hebert and seconded by legislator Carbone. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0166.
Moved by legislator Carbone and seconded by legislator Delahanty. And legislator Baroth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the chair of the administration, I realize that the contract increase is approximately going to be about $13,500 for a year. And my question is, in the Human Services Committee meeting, it was stated that this was to, quote, increase services. And my question is, through the chair, is what additional services are we getting for this $13,500?
Through the chair, this is not an actual increase in services. This is service that's already has been provided by county employees by a public health nurse who recently retired. And so while we are recruiting for that person, which we're actively doing, we need to provide the service, and we're able to get an LPN using the ADECO contract to provide the service to the children. And so that's the reason for the amendment for the request in the increase in funds, and this is grant funded.
So, through the chair, the additional service is actually replacement services for someone who's retiring, correct?
Through the chair, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Legislator Kaley.
Through you to the administration of this, is this specifically for the not replacement, but the interim period for the LPN that you've described, or any other positions are funded through this?
Through the chair, this ADECO contract funds a number of positions, a number of other nursing positions in the department. However, this specific increase for this 13.5 something dollars is specifically to cover the replacement of services that were provided by this public health nurse that the LPN is now able to provide.
Thank you. And then through the chair, recruiting of a replacement, are you recruiting an LPN or are you recruiting a nurse?
Through the chair, we are recruiting a public health nurse, which is an RN, and the reason for that is because the actual work requires a scope of service that includes assessment and skilled nursing that an LPN is unable to provide. So the current plan is for the LPN to do what she is able to do, and we have an RN supervising her and overseeing her work.
Thank you. And then through the chair too, the administration does the overseeing or mentoring or, I'm not picking up the right words, the work that the RN has to do in relationship to the LPN, is that work that is taking away from another job that she might be doing, or?
Through the chair, it is, it's a nursing manager who may shift her other responsibilities around in order to make time to do this.
All right, thank you. And with regards to this, through the chair to the administration, we were in Human Services, you were talking about the other two agencies that you have a contractual relationship with. With these other agencies, I know Maxim was one of them, and I forgot the other one. Are we currently contracting LPNs or RNs through those agencies?
Through the chair, I'm not aware right now of any, let me correct myself. I believe there is a part-time LPN that we may be using Maxim for because ADECO is unable to cover the particular work that that nurse needs to do.
Okay. Thank you. And then one last one. In terms of recruiting the RN that you need, could you just, I know this is a little bit of a reach, but how long have we been recruiting, and what is that entailing?
Through the chair, the public health nurse who retired, this was a very recent retirement, within the last 6 weeks or so. And so the position was, we had to do our request to fill. That was taken care of. We are approved to fill. We posted the position, and we also have an online ad through ZipRecruiters. So we have a number of applications that we are currently screening.
Thank you. That's all.
That's good, okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0167.
Moved by Legislator Delahanty and seconded by Legislator Rocco. Legislator Barath. You're welcome.
Through the chair of the administration, I was doing my math on this particular referral, and I note that annually we'll be receiving in the grant about $58,997 per year. And the contract we're offering for an annual amount with the Genesee Valley Group Health is $103,997. And my question is, where is the additional $45,000 to pay for this contract being drawn from the county budget through the chair?
Through the chair, the remaining $45,000 is going to be county funded, and it's budgeted in the annual budget process.
Yes. Through the chair of the administration, under what budget line is it coming from, or fund source?
Through the chair, I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, but I appreciate if you could. And then secondly, through the chair of the administration, is the contract amount that we have with Genesee Valley Group Health for the annual $103,997, is that the same amount as the previous years, or is that higher or lower than past years? Through the chair.
Through the chair, the previous contract with Genesee Valley was $90,000.
Excuse me, through the chair? $97,000?
$90,000.
$90,000. And then through the chair of the administration, not that I have anything against it, but why the increase of about 12, 13% through the chair?
Through the chair, there's an annual reimbursement rate that's noted in the letter, and we had a slight increase from the State Health Department. The cost for rabies prophylactic treatment is expensive, and the slight increase that we received is going into the contract to support the reimbursement needs.
Okay, so through the chair of the administration, so I understand, the contract, at least in part, is based upon the grant funding, and we adjust the contract based upon what we receive via grant funding, in part, through the chair.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay.
The annual reimbursement amount we're receiving, again, is slightly increased. It's $58,997 annually.
That makes sense. I only note this because, to the chair actually, is because when you have an amount coming from the, that's exact, $45,000 on the nose, I wonder why that is the case. And also, through the chair of the administration, just so you know, I did find that the funding, it was in the referral itself, so you need not worry about that. It was there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0168.
Moved by Legislator Rocco and seconded by President Daniele. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Baroth.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, on the referral, it was noticed that there were two exceptions to those property owners who may or may not have owed property taxes. In fact, two did. And my question is, are those delinquent property taxes going to be resolved prior to these transactions? Through the chair.
Through the chair, the one delinquent tax indication for William Rudd is actually his son, William Rudd II. So that won't be in effect. The other one for Mr. Langworthy is $64 in our account. We will not close until we have his $64.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0169.
Moved by President Daniele and seconded by Legislator Ansello. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 17-0171.
Moved by Legislator Ansello and seconded by Legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion on this? Almost. Okay. Legislator Cayley. Very
Chair.
good.
Through you to the administration. Hello, Director. Am I correct in my recollection of the grant? This is tied to the grant through New York State?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you. And then through the chair, I realize that in the board meetings that we've had, I've not asked this question of whether or not things have been vetted. It was my assumption that this was a project that would be going forward as a result of the grant award. So the question would be, did I make the wrong assumption?
Is that your question?
Yeah.
That's kind of
all right. Let me do it to you. Okay. Let me say this way. Would this funding, through the chair to the administration, would the funding required for this study be reimbursed through the grant at the end?
Yes.
Through the chair, that's correct. The study is paid for by the grant, and the study could lead to an incubator facility or other business facility that would spur jobs growth and also benefit the airport, as well as these technologies that we hope to incubate that would be used in other public facilities.
Thank you. Then, through the chair, would then the funds needed to add that to the airport project also be funded through the grant?
Through the chair, they would not.
Thank you. And through the chair, one last one. Once this study is done and it comes back in the odd moment that they might say, nah, it's not a good idea, is the grant at all in jeopardy, or funds from receiving the grant, the total grant in jeopardy by not doing this project, if in fact the study is not concluding that it's a good idea to do?
Through the chair, the grant, the money in the grant is to pay for a study, and there is no jeopardy that it wouldn't get reimbursed. It is to do a study as we would pay for an airport master plan or any other environmental studies, things of that nature. So the grant, and then if it leads to other things, then that we could contemplate that. The authority board could contemplate that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. And are there any matters to come before this committee this evening? Seeing none, the May 23rd meeting of the Ways and Means will stand adjourned. The next meeting of the Ways and Means Committee will be held on Tuesday, June 27th at 6 p.m. Very nice and safe evening.